Hey, this is Owen Kulp with Coldwell Banker Real Estate. What I wanted to do today is I had this idea of how complicated and sometimes how overwhelming the home buying process can be. I've been working with a lot of first-time home buyers. I know if a lot of people I've worked with as well, they haven't bought a home maybe like for 20 years, and so this is their second time buying a home. I thought it would be a good idea to give you the whole scope of how the process works. So from beginning to closing on the home and moving in, a short walkthrough of each step you need to take, and I think it'll be helpful to know like what you need to do beforehand so that things don't come up as a surprise, and we want to make this process as stress-free as possible. It is one of the biggest investments you make in your life, and so we want to make this a smooth transition as you go. So what I did is I put together a short little PowerPoint here. I'm going to screen share and walk you through it so we have some visuals to look at. Let's just jump right into it.
All right, so I've put together this flow chart here, just so I think that you have some visuals. I think that'll be helpful because you'll see there is a lot to cover, and two, it'll keep me on track. So I think it'll be a little bit more succinct if I do it this way. What I'm going to do here is I want you to start from the beginning. So you decide you're ready to buy a home. First step that you want to take is you want to obtain a pre-approval for your mortgage. And the reason I put this first is for a couple of reasons. One is first-time home buyers, they usually don't know where to start. It's very understandable too because they decide they want to buy a home. They're excited, so they start looking at homes online and they want to go see some homes. But it's really important to do this first for a few reasons. One is you want to assess your financial situation. You don't always want to rely on those online mortgage calculators because they don't always factor everything in. So where you think your monthly mortgage payment might be $800, but when it comes down to brass tacks, it turns out it's $1,100 a month because it didn't factor in mortgage insurance or taxes or things along those lines. So it's really important to do that. It's also important because you may think a lot of times home buyers will assume they can afford a $200,000 house, but when someone starts running the finances, it turns out maybe it's only 150, right? So you don't want to be shopping around for $220,000 homes. It's just kind of it's sad, a little bit depressing because then it turns out that you can't necessarily afford that at this time. So what I would recommend is speaking to a mortgage lender and actually speaking to multiple mortgage lenders. There's nothing wrong with shopping around and speaking to 3 or 4 or 5 of them and seeing who can get you the best rate, the best type of mortgage. There's a lot that you can look into. I might actually do a separate video just strictly on mortgage pre-approval and the next thing I'm going to talk about, which is closing costs, just because there is a lot to know about that. So, but just for the sake of this video, I want to be quick and to the point and remain on topic. So I did throw in closing costs here because I think it's important to think about this now as opposed to when it comes time to close on a home. Most home buyers, and I'm guilty of this as well, a few years back when I bought my first home, is it sort of assumed that, well, hey, I got a mortgage, it's 3.5% down, so if I buy a $200,000 home, that's $7,000 I need to put down on the table. Well, that's part of it. There's also closing costs. There's other fees that are incurred when you have a real estate transaction. One big one is transfer tax, and this is going to vary. If you're in the city of Pittsburgh, it's over 5%. If you do it outside the city of Pittsburgh, it might average about 2%. So that's one factor to keep in mind. There are taxes, real estate taxes, property taxes, I should say, that are rolled into this. So there is a lot of different ones, and again, that's probably why I'll do a separate video. But it's good to know now because you don't want there to be a surprise. You found the home that you love, and now all of a sudden you realize you need to come up with an additional $7,000, $8,000 at closing, and you just don't have it. So really good to cover it now. And then once you do that, you'll know that, hey, I'm financially ready. I'm able to get a mortgage and I can put an offer in on a home. Last thing I want to touch on this is you will need, unless you're buying a home cash, you will need a mortgage pre-approval to submit an offer. Most sellers were not going to accept an offer on a home unless they know that you're pre-approved for a mortgage. Okay, so once you get to that step, next thing that you want to do is you want to speak to your agent and go over some wants and needs because you want to narrow down the search. You don't want to look at all 2,000 homes that are currently on the market. It's just going to be a waste of time. You'll never get anywhere too. You'll just be spinning your tires. So you want to figure out Do you want a 3-bedroom house with 2 baths? Do you want a particular neighborhood? Do you want a particular school district? Do you want a particular style of home? Is this going to be a home that you're going to be in for the next 5 to 7 years, or this is going to be a forever home? You plan on retiring here, and so you have specific wants that you're looking for, and this is going to really help narrow down the search of homes that you want to find. When you do that, then you can start selecting some properties that are currently on the market that you want to take a look at. From there, what we'll do is we'll schedule some showings, we'll view those properties. We might need to kind of revert back and adjust based on those needs and the price points from the home, but that'll give you a good idea of what you're looking for, and which homes that you do fall in love with and want to put an offer in. Just to backtrack while I'm at this point too, I want to just point out a few things with timeline. When you get a mortgage approval, it doesn't take that long. I mean, maybe a couple of days, a few days, maybe up to a week to get a mortgage approval, depending on the lender that you're using. And closing costs, that's usually a fairly quick conversation you can have with me. Of course, obtaining the closing costs might take some time, but most of these steps right here don't take long. Discussing your home's wants and needs, I mean, maybe a half an hour with me, selecting some properties and viewing properties. This is where it can be time consuming, because you might look at 3 homes and absolutely fall in love with one of them, and we might be able to select some properties to view them, and put an offer in a week. Other people, they might be a little bit more indecisive. The home that they had in mind isn't on the market. There's a lot of things that come up. So while this part of the process is quick, this process might be, I don't know, anywhere from like 2 weeks, 3 weeks, up to 2 months, 3 months, 4 months. It really just all depends. So keep that in mind when you start your home shopping, because if you have a deadline, right, if you need to be out of your apartment or your rental property at a certain point, it's something to keep in mind, because this could take a little bit of time to find the perfect home for you. All right, next, after you do view some properties and then you find one that you really like and you want to put an offer in, we're going to write an offer to purchase. I can take care of all that. I do have some documentation that you need to sign, but for the most part, I can handle that. I will walk you through some of the important things when it comes to the next step as well, when you're writing your offer, which is the negotiation term. A lot of first-time home buyers think, and they're not wrong, is that the price of the house or the offer that you're putting in price wise is the most important. It's maybe true in some cases, but it's also important to consider that there's other terms in an offer that are important to a seller. One might be settlement date, for example. I would say the average transaction or the average offer that I write is generally somewhere between 30 and 45 days to close. Some sellers might want to close faster than that. It might be possible, might not. Other sellers might want to close a little bit longer down the road because they need to buy their home, or they're in the process of closing on a home, and we need to take that into consideration. Again, there's some other things that might come into play, but I'll definitely walk you through that when we get to that stage. It's just important to know ahead of time. Next is, once we negotiate the terms, both you and the seller of the home that you love have agreed on a term, they're going to accept your offer. And so this is when it gets really exciting, because it gets a little stressful too as well. I'm going to put that out. It's a whole roller coaster of emotions, but it's really exciting once you get your offer accepted. But there is a lot more that we need to do after that, because once your offer is accepted, then we're going to go into our contingency period. And all this means is there's going to be contingencies in your offer. Generally, there's a few when it comes to getting your mortgage approval, or your actual mortgage and underwriting inspections and so forth. So these are the things that come up in that contingency period. One big one I always recommend is doing an inspection. You have some leverage here and things that you can do on your end that you want when it comes to inspections. I'd recommend doing a standard home inspection. You can also add doing like a pest inspection, radon inspection. You can even have like a survey or boundaries done. You can have a sewer line test. There's a lot of different inspections you can do. I'd highly recommend at least doing the home inspection, and that you would do it usually within 10 to 18 days of getting your offer accepted. At this point too, your mortgage is going to go into underwriting. So it's important to note that although you're approved for a mortgage, you have a mortgage pre-approval, it doesn't mean that you are set and good on a mortgage. Nine times out of 10 you are, but it's important to note that your mortgage goes into underwriting now. So you're going to have to do some extra paperwork like sending in your W-2s or your bank statements or pay stubs or getting a employment verification from your employer, because what is happening at this point is your lender is sort of getting the loan set for this particular home. I say 9 times out of 10, most people don't have any issues, but there are things that come up. Let's say that you put the offer in on the home and unfortunately, I don't know, due to COVID, you got laid off from your job. Well, that's going to cause some issues with your mortgage. So just to keep that in mind, this is that part of the process where your mortgage goes into underwriting and there's some legwork you need to do on your end. Another thing that you'll need to do is obtain homeowners insurance. This is pretty easy, but again, you want to shop around, maybe see which different insurance companies you want to use or what makes the most sense for you, because this is also going to be factored into your monthly payment as well for your mortgage. Order appraisals. You do have to order appraisals. I know sometimes first home buyers say, like, I don't care what the price is, like, or what it's appraised at. You do have to have an appraisal done if you're getting a mortgage. A mortgage company is going to want to have an appraisal done on the property to make sure that the amount of money they're lending you is justified for the home, right? So if you're buying a $200,000 home and they're lending you, let's say 80% of that, they want to make sure that that home is worth the amount they're lending to you. Another step that you need to take is obtaining title insurance and completing the closing documents. So you're going to work with a settlement or title company to make sure that your title's clear. They're going to make sure that the transfer of the property into your name and you taking possession of it is all good. So there's some documents that you'll need to do there. And then you'll also, the last but not least, is you're going to resolve any pending issues. This could be maybe there's some additional documents you need to get into your mortgage company. Maybe there were some things that came up on the home inspection that we asked the seller to have repaired. Wanting to get all those things sorted out. So once we get to this part, we're pretty much, downhill from there. It's pretty easy after this point, but you'll see a lot to cover. So once we get past that stage, last but not least is you're going to obtain those funds for closing. So that's why I put it in the beginning, because at this point you're going to need to get everything lined up and have your exact figure for your closing. We're going to get closing scheduled a certain time on the settlement date that we're all going to meet in the office and go through the paperwork. There is a lot of paperwork to sign, so you're going to close on that home, which is really exciting. And then last but not least, you're ready to move into your home. So a lot to cover. I hope this was helpful. I hope this sort of gives you a nice flow of the way that this works and what you need to know ahead of time before you start shopping for your home. If you like this video, please hit the like button. Definitely subscribe to my channel. I'm going to try to have some more information like this, like I covered with closing costs or mortgage pre-approvals. So I want to have a lot coming out. If you're ready to get started on your home search, or if you have questions about the process, or if you just simply, maybe want this PDF, I'll send it to you so you can understand the steps that you need to take. Please feel free to reach out to me. I do have my contact information below in the description. More than happy to have a conversation with you, and I look forward to hearing from you. Thanks so much for checking this out.